Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to open up September's meeting of the Conservation Commission. Continued hearings will go to the October 16th, 2018 date. Did the members get a chance to read the minutes of August 21st? And if they did and noted no errors or omissions, I'll entertain a motion to accept them and place them on file.
There's one typo in the entry on William Cliff where my name has an I thrown into it.
I always do that.
It's okay, it's cool.
Okay, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
I motion to accept.
With that one change? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
As long as we're gonna get to posterity, I was late. We might as well spell my name.
And you know what's funny? I checked that, but I checked it up the top because I checked it here and I thought, well, if it's right here, it's probably right to the rest of the
It started
document.
telling me when I spell your name wrong, but it didn't
I don't care.
click.
Didn't click. We have a continued notice of intent to raise an existing home and construct a new single-family dwelling from Brian and Kelly Kelly at 330 Fifth Street. We have received a request for a continuance to the October 16th date, and that would be my recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. At some point, I think that we ought to speak as a board on this one and Plum Island Blue, which is the next one. We've been continuing them on a regular basis, so I really don't feel as though we ought to force them back to the Newburyport Daily News for a new legal ad. But as far as abutter notifications go, when these guys kind of sit and put this on the back burner for months at a time, I think it's only fair that they renotice abutters when they come back in. So I think that's what I'm going to instruct these two to do at least. These have been on here for maybe a year and a half now.
That's what I was thinking. That
Yeah.
I was wondering what the record was, but I feel like the Kelly.
Well, they can keep it legally by statute. They can keep it on there for 2 years,
Yeah.
and then it drops off. All right, we've got that one. We've got Brian and Kelly. Kelly, I have a continued notice of intent to construct a single-family home from Plum Island Blue LLC, 17C Fordham Way. Is anyone here to represent them? I did not hear from them today. They're a little bit different case. We may discuss having to have them renotice in the newspaper also. They've not continued on a regular basis. So I guess I will entertain a motion to continue them one more month to the October 16th date. That's Plum Island Blue.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We have a continued amended notice of intent to make repairs to the resource areas DEP number 50-1243 from Eric Sorensen on Scotland Road. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening.
Yeah. Okay, you want to throw it out there?
Yeah.
All right.
Just kind of update you, we did, Neil McCarthy's been in touch with Doug quite a bit through the last couple months as we postponed this, or continued in the last couple months, but just to update everybody on the board, we did get the plants in the wetlands over here. I believe off the top of my head it was 30. The trees are coming in Monday, Tuesday to do the entire site, 133 trees, so they are getting delivered Monday, Tuesday. And then it will take, we want to say a week to plant them, could be less, could be more, it really depends on the terrain. Some of this is pretty rocky. Other than that, just to give you an update on the site, we have our grades all the way to about here. In the next 2 weeks, we hope to finish it off and get it loomed and seeded. Building was delivered. It is not, it will start to go in about a week and a half. They'll start to put the building up, but it is delivered on site. So that's kind of where we stand with the project. Obviously, any questions or any concerns?
Just an update to the board. I've been here, and you hear there was a little bit of problem with dust control the other day. It's a tough site. It's real fine. It's real powdery, so it goes from sticking to the tires to talcum powder dry in no time at all. So he's had some issues with that, but he's been dealing with the planning board and board of selectmen on that one. I did get an email today. I mean, he gets enough bad press, but so I ought to read this one out. Is Joe Sawaka, the town's engineer, went to the site and said, I went to the site this AM during the heavy rain and was happy to see Eric and Phil working on check dams to control channelized flow coming from the site. I imagine that was a tough task today.
We spent all day just controlling the erosion, making sure that everything was in check all day. We created dams and ponds throughout it because everything does run off.
Eric, is this the beginning of the road that I can see when I drive by here, or is that just a pile of soil that's up there?
He is cut all the way to here.
Okay, so I am seeing that.
And he actually has ponds to catch the water. So he has 2 ponds that's catching the water right here. But
Okay.
he's cut all the way up right until here, and he's waiting for the right opportunity, obviously with the rains, not to finish this off.
Okay.
There's quite a bit of cut in here. You know, knock on wood, he did test it and there wasn't any ledge. He obviously still has a little ways to go, so we're hoping we don't hit any ledge there. We're hitting enough ledge up in here. So that's kind of where we stand.
Did you get your construction entrance livened up?
Yes, we brought in new stone. We livened it up, but we actually brought in new stone on Monday, and he actually put it on, and then today he put more of it on and re-livened it up, so we have quite a bit of stone.
If you're having real trouble, there's something else you can do to that, to add. It's not really a big deal. You make it's sort of a 2x4 ladder, and you can put them in the back of a pickup truck. So you've got 2 of them, and you cover about 10 feet, maybe 2.5 feet each. And they run the tires, you put them on top of your construction entrance, and when they run the tires over that washboard, it helps. So there's other things you can do if you really get pushed for it. But it looks like now you're getting the site stabilized, so.
And we are washing tires at the top.
I saw you do
We
it.
are washing them, and we're sweeping the street, and, you know, obviously monitoring that, and every day changes. You know, we're dealing with dust, or we're dealing with mud, and some days it's both.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
you know, hopefully the truck traffic slows down. Once we get this, there'll be a lot less
Get your
trucks.
soils in
Yeah.
and, Any questions or comments for Eric while he's Eric, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right.
You know, you can reach me if you got any.
Yeah. Yep.
Anything comes up. Thanks, guys. Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
You too.
We have a continued amended notice of intent to reduce the footprint of the proposed single-family home and change the foundation type to poured concrete from Derek Goodson. We received a email from him, and he is withdrawing his application. And it would be my recommendation to the board that we allow the withdrawal without prejudice.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have a continued request for determination to retop an existing driveway with asphalt from Karen Cumberland at 35 Northern Boulevard. Anybody here to represent her? It would be my recommendation that we continue that hearing to the October 16th date.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We have a continued notice of intent for the construction of a retaining wall to remove ledge by blasting from Francis Hughes at 24 Old Rowland Road. I can't speak tonight. Hi Frank, how you doing?
Maybe they later on, well, thank you. Just going back to the last meeting, I think what you were concerned about was runoff from any kind of slush material that we're going to use to blast, and I think the contractors provided you with an explanation of how they're going to do it.
He did. I got an explanation from Rock Splitters. He did a great job laying it out. One of my concerns was nitrates and nitrites. He's not using info. He's using dynamite, nitroglycerin, and sawdust. I decided that I was going to educate myself a little bit and read a little bit about blasting, and it's kind of funny because everything I kind of picked up on, he's got in here. His methodology, he's going to over-drill a foot, which keeps, and then only push his explosive down to within 1 foot of the bottom of the hole, and that stops that blasting from getting down deep into the ground, that airspace. He's going to take a little bit at a time. They create a hole, and then they peel it off into the hole. They do more than one blast. He has contacted Rachel Holland. I called the abutter, and she is very pleased and satisfied that her well is going to be monitored, and they're going to put something against her foundation. So the neighborhood seems to be happy. I don't have any more questions for the applicant, unless the board has more questions or concerns. They're going to be tested, just a side, they're going to be testing her well for acidity, any chemicals. They're going to baseline it and then look for other things. So she's going to get a pretty good protection on her well. All set? Are there any abutters here? Would anyone like to speak? I'll close the public hearing and state a motion.
Move to approve with a negative determination.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Now, we don't usually condition an RDA. Are there any conditions the board wants to put on it? The only thing I'm going to put on it, I intend to put on that it will be done in accordance with Rock Splitters' document of August 24th, 2018. Okay?
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
We have a request for determination of applicability for the removal and trimming of selected trees from Craig Mellon at 10 Riverfront. Is anyone here to represent him? It would be my recommendation to the board that we grant a continuance to the October 16th date.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, Jim?
She said, oh, this is.
Should have been on that one. And notice of intent to repair an existing foundation from Pamela and David Calman at 26 Southern Boulevard. Hi, Bill.
Hello. Morning, guys.
Evening, how are you?
Here's one. Here's one.
Do you have your tear sheet? Tear sheet.
No, they are.
No, from the newspaper.
Newspaper.
Oh, no, I did not do that.
I know it ran, so.
You saw it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I saw it too, but I thought they had,
Give your butters list, or is there one in here? So
There's one in
Jen
here.
can prepare that.
No, it's not.
There it is.
okay. My name is Bill Barrett, and I'm here, David and Pam have hired me to come in tonight and just speak to you about this project. They live in Western Mass and couldn't be here in a manner, so, I actually looked at this earlier.
I didn't expect it. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm here to let you know what they're trying to do. I know you're familiar with it, Doug, but for the board members, subject to the NOI is 26 Southern Boulevard. The Commons are asking permission to repair the foundation that was damaged in king tides and storm of last February and March. Pictures that I have here will show you the damage that was done, and you have some already, I can see that. That's right, some there too. The contractor hired to repair the foundation is Goliath Tech. Prior to them starting the work, construction fencing will be installed to prevent them from encroaching into the dune more than that is necessary. They are proposing to install 3 helical piles with underpinning brackets that will attach to the footing and lift the foundation back into place. These piles will be driven to a depth of 14 feet. Once the underpinning is complete, and these guys have cleared out of there, the Commons have hired a landscaper to come back in and restore the area that has been disturbed by the contractor.
Okay, that's good, Bill. I need to know, on this thing here, it asks what your disturbance is. And when I go to make this out, and I send this off to DEP, I have to come up with a number for this. So that area that you're talking about, that area of temporary disturbance that they're gonna restore, give me a number for here, so I can put a number in here for that temporary disturbance, whether it's 10 feet the length of the building, or 12 feet the length of the building?
They need a 12-foot path.
They need a 12 foot, so you're gonna need at least 14 feet
Some
maybe?
is driveway, so there's really no impact of the dune. So I would say it's under 100 square feet
Okay.
of impact. to the
Can
actual
you
dune area.
do an easy draw, a quick drawing to show us that, or add to something you have?
I think I have a plan.
Now, it looks like both these pictures are of the same corner, correct? This pipe and this pipe are the same.
Same corner, but
All right.
different size.
Now,
yeah.
is there a front and a back corner that are gonna be done, or just this front corner? Just this corner, okay.
Yeah, this area here where the sump pump pipes were, that's the area of the damage.
All right, I thought there was a sump pump in each corner for some reason, and they dropped them both.
The house was pumping up from this corner, and that's where the undermining happened.
Gotcha.
So most of the damage is back in here.
All right, and these are going, what, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, 2 on this side, I believe, 1 on this
and
side.
1 over there? Can you draw those in, or show them to us somehow?
Right on one of these pictures.
Sure. So we have them somewhere.
Okay, actually, I think it's this side, it's got the two. So I'll just do,
There you go, it's easier to read up there anyway, yeah.
underpinning here, underpinning here, and then underpinning here. Might be a good time for doing this, but maybe a color one would be better.
Yeah.
And then as far as,
Yeah, what's your initials there, Bill, and put 918 on that. Thank you.
plan in here that I can mark up.
Yeah, I think there was a site plan, a GIS site plan maybe.
I just saw it a second ago.
Oh, yeah, this is yours, so.
It's right there. Okay, so. Actually, it's kind of dark. So the driveway comes in like this. And they're gonna need this.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, take this one, please.
There you go.
That's all I got.
Okay, so the driveway comes in like this, like that. Goes over about there, about 5 feet, and then this is dune on this side.
Mhm.
And then they're gonna need an area like this
To get that in.
to get to that.
Their new deck is not there yet.
And it's like, I would say this area here that isn't on driveway is probably 100 square feet.
Okay. Plus or minus.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Okay.
that's helpful.
And
we have
so that
some-
one too.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Bill.
Oh, that's too rich.
Yeah, that's all right, we'll gather it up.
So they're asking at this point in time if they get permission to make that repair and get the house back in order.
Any questions for the applicant? Questions, concerns? I think as far as a methodology goes for reattaching this and fixing it, this is probably as uninvasive as we're gonna get.
Yeah,
You know.
it seems like the other half the equation in these projects has been impacts to the dune and all the proper steps being made with that. So do you want any type of fencing along?
Yeah, he already, you
It's in the plan.
said that you will put fencing. Now, do we have, can I see that, make sure that we have that construction narrative in there?
You can have this, is that what you're looking for?
Yes, right there. Can I have this one?
You may.
Okay.
Yeah, there's gonna be fencing to keep them inside that 14-foot boundary of the,
Construction fencing will be installed to minimize the impact of the dune by the equipment. 3 helical piles, 14 feet.
and there's nothing, is there anything on site that you're particularly worried about?
No,
Okay.
no, especially in that corner there, there's not much of anything right there.
Okay.
Yeah, it is pretty much
Yeah.
done.
Round last year.
Yeah, that house there spent, Bill, 2 or 3 weeks with a couple feet of water around it?
Over.
Yeah,
Is that the one that-
it never went down, yeah, it's the one
Both
that,
king tides,
Yeah.
impacted both
it
times.
just never went away, it just sat there. It was a shame. Any other questions for the applicant or concerns? Are there any butters here? Would anyone like to speak on this project? I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'm going to approve the NOI.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any conditions other than those that we've talked about and are contained in the document?
I mean, you've got your standard,
This is an NOI, so there'll be a standard, yeah.
text in there about revegetating to the same condition it was originally or something like that.
That's already in there, so, all right.
That would be better than it was now.
Yeah, I think so, probably. Rachel, he's already been heard.
Oh, they
It
did.
came up quick tonight, it's already been heard, and we talked about you, well, I explained to the board what was going on down there. I've closed the public hearing now, you can certainly call and talk to me about it if you want, but we're not gonna discuss it again tonight, okay?
You don't,
All right.
for some reason, let me know.
Take care.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
No, on the blasting, she's the abutter to the blasting.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Bill. You too. have a notice of intent for replacement of disturbed coastal dune and replantings from John Morris at 40 Southern Boulevard. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Amy.
How you doing?
For the record, my name is Bob Grass from Engineering Land Services. This is my cutout. And I have a notice of intent number 0501270.
You included your abutters
Yeah,
in the file.
everything. Oh, no, sorry.
These are those areas that are colored in the areas that we're talking about.
This
This
is
is pretty
an
anyway.
existing two-bedroom dwelling located on Southern Boulevard and Dartmouth Way at the intersection. Right now, there's a disturbed area in front, everybody just pulls up, it's, they're reconstructing the inside of the house, totally revamping everything inside. There's an existing deck on the outside. What we're proposing to do is we're filing with the zoning board for lot coverage, to future lot coverage, for the stairs. Mark tried to get a hold of Sam today, but he left a letter for them. I guess he's going to file with the zoning.
Okay, all right. So he's been refused, he's.
Yeah, well, he's got a letter into him, Sam wasn't there to get the refusal
Gotcha.
letter. So what we filed, this disturbed area, we're actually going to make it very stabilized, because everyone just pulls up in the house and it's always, it gets rutted sometimes. And what we're proposing to do is take the existing grade out, drop it, keep the same grade, because we have to match the existing edge of pavement that runs in front right here. We're gonna put 6-inch vertical granite curving to keep the dune grass, to keep the dune sand from washing in, from blowing in on the parking area. And we're gonna have seashells for the parking area for infiltration. So it won't be paved, gravelled, or anything, it'll be seashells. And that's roughly 802 square feet. We're also proposing a deck that will hit the top of the curb to the existing deck, so it'll be above the dune sand right here. It's 3.5 by 3.5 right here. And we're also, this red line here is actually the disturbed area. So we're gonna do some replanting of the dune grass in the disturbed area, and also we're gonna do some replanting to revamp this area right here that's been, walked over and all that, have been historically disturbed. We're gonna revamp that also up to this point. And back here, it's just basically all the dune sand, it's just all sand in the back. And we have an existing heavy shrub line right here that you can't even hardly walk through, shown right like this, and it's light green. It's very dense, so there's no activity here. The only activity would be in the back, which is just basically sand. And that's it, that's all we wanna do. We just wanna revamp, we wanna stabilize this front and reestablish it with the seashell parking lot, parking area. And we got some comments back from DEP, saying, granite permitting does not meet coastal dune performance standards, but we believe that it will stabilize the sand from mixing in with the seashells. It's not slope granite, it'll be vertical granite, and it'll also stop a car from, when they pull in, it's actually 2.5 plus 6 inches or 3 feet, stop the front of the face of the car from hitting the building.
What do they recommend using?
They don't want anything.
They don't want anything.
I've had this argument with them before.
I mean, that stabilizes everything.
It started way back with the wetlands bylaw, and I said to them, look, you want a 9 by 18 driveway, and you want it nothing but gravel. And so people pull in and they cut their wheels, and just cutting the wheels now, it's 10 by 18. And they plow it that winter, and it's 12 by 20, and then they come down with another load of gravel, and pretty soon they've got the whole front yard they're parking in. And that's what's happened here. It happens in a lot of places on Plum Island. Is that the guests come down and they just pull into the front yard. If you've got curbing and definition, your materials don't get mixed.
Seashell.
You know, hey, does the curbing comply strictly with the dune standards? And, you know, not really. No, it doesn't. But I think it serves a greater purpose. And if it's only 6 inches high, it doesn't become an impediment to windblown sand. I've always been for it. I'm going to continue to vote for it. You guys are on your, you know, whatever, however you feel about this subject. It seems to be, you know, people feel one way or the other about it, so.
And I also would like to add, I've also done some research on some other notice intents for coastal dune areas. And they do recommend seashells for parking areas.
Oh, yeah, they're great. I mean, the calcium
No,
carbonate.
I mean, they like it instead
Yep.
of just gravel. You know, I mean, they'd rather have that than.
Yep.
I've read many of them, they recommend on their notice intent, as in these notes, technical notes, they please use seashells as the parking area. So, that's.
That's only because it shows up better on
Yeah.
when they fly over.
Yeah, all right, we know how much you expanded this one.
So again, you know, you heard the comments. That aside, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay.
So you show a 6-inch reveal
Yep.
on the seashell side. Is he flush on the other side, or?
This will be flush up here, and then a 6-inch drop here, and then the seashell will be.
Right, but what I meant is that basically the top of the granite, is that gonna be the top
Of the sand.
You see, sand can come into the driveway, but the seashells should stay in.
Should stay.
Right.
And is that the case over?
So in other words, they won't keep encroaching on,
Well, and then also the
on
sand's
sensitive areas.
other, the sand.
Basically.
And we also proposed dune grass plantings, we said, to be installed in an 18-inch grid, 2 plumes per hole.
You notice
And
he has tipped the granite down towards the street, so it
Yeah,
doesn't
so
get cooked by the snow.
It's gonna go up by, it's gonna be a 0 right here, and it's gonna, right here, at 5-foot length, it's a transition piece, it's cut like a triangle, so it's, when the plows go by, they won't rip out again.
Are these stairs over here, it says proposed?
Yes, the only thing I would be touching would be the bottom step. That's the first level, this is up probably like 6 feet high. The deck is probably about 6 feet high. And
Are
it'll
those-
come down.
Are those your only 2 means of egress?
Yes, this one.
So this
And
one's necessary.
This one's necessary, that's the first level, there's only 1 level, right? And then there's another stairs that go down, there's a concrete deck underneath this, and there's a door well that goes into the basement right in here.
Okay, but that's
So-
not a means of egress.
No.
All right.
So I got that, we actually need this for safety.
That's where I was going
Yeah.
with it.
Yes. We actually need this.
You'll need that for an
For
occupancy.
fire.
For occupancy.
Yeah, for safety.
This area behind the house is just gonna stay? you said
That, nothing's gonna be touched, the only thing we're
No
doing is
walkway?
nothing, just to get out of the house in case there's a fire. This is an existing entrance, they only have 1 entrance in. The deck just has a rail around, we're gonna break the rail in the middle, put the stairs down, and then just stabilize the front, because the front just keeps getting, driven over, and we wanna stabilize it. And he's actually, all the neighbors, when I was out there, it was on a Sunday, actually working on a Sunday, and all the neighbors were happy with what he was doing for, upgrading. It was a, depleted house, and he's upgrading the whole house to, upgrade the values of all the surrounding homes.
It looks like there's some vegetation around the side of the house, so you want
Yeah.
to think about
Yeah.
with the new deck in the back, doing anything. You always seem to have some concerns about when you have a new stairway, making sure that you route people
Yeah,
so they're
well,
not trampling through vegetation to use.
Well, this is all dune, this is all sand, right here.
usually I would, especially, you're out on the you're on the east side of the island, and you've got 2 means of egress, and they come down towards the street. Yeah, I want them to transition back into the driveway, because you know people are gonna use them. In
Right.
this case here, I think it would probably make more of a mess to get a pathway back to somewhere than it would be to just maybe let a little used back door, just maybe they find their own path out of this one. That's sort of where I go with this one.
Yeah, I just wanted to check in,
Yeah.
that's something we've talked about.
So what is that you want?
Places.
I think with this one here, I think to bring this over and connect it to the driveway is a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're up
This
in
one
the air
here,
on
yeah,
that.
this one here, I'd probably just let it go into the backyard,
Okay.
not have a concern
Yeah,
with it.
not familiar with the site, so
Yeah.
that picture, so.
I'm just trying to look for some pictures that I took, that
Would seem with this shrub area and the property line, I mean, there's nothing,
there's not, definitely, I mean, I had a hard time just, I had to go through here, and I was like, you know, I'm like, I'm like pushing through, and, you know, people going with their bathing suits through, and I am with dungarees, I'm sweating, and I'm going through this thing. I'm like, Sundays is not a good day to work down there. I just don't.
Is the propane tank, you know,
That's
it's a good installation? or-
yeah, that's a solid tank, it's fairly new, it's above grade, it's above grade.
It's a chain,
It's a 4 or 5 footer,
it's a chain,
is it chain?
to the building.
I'm not sure about that, I cannot verify that, I just saw it, I just drew it.
Yeah, it's okay, it's all right, you're not, you didn't touch it, so it's
Yeah.
just curious.
And the services go up to dot, that's, like, yeah, it's all underground, so that's water and sewer out, there's a manhole here, they have it, so and there's a water service line coming through here.
Anything else, guys? Would anyone like to speak on this project?
Anywhere around?
Well, Tom's still here, but yeah, he's good. Then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion to accept?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, good, I got my first postal.
You got your first postal one under your belt. Well, no, not yet. Not yet. You gotta tend to your bills.
10 working days, 10 working days.
Trick is just don't use fresh plant shells.
Yeah. Even the weathered ones, fall's a better time to throw them down.
Thank you for your time.
Hot summer
All right,
day
take care.
just before you go on vacation.
Tom, are you here for Ostrander also tonight? Are you
I
representing?
can, if they're not here, I'll,
They're not here, so,
I help them fill it out.
all right. We have a request for determination of applicability to add finish work to the bottom of the existing home from Julie and Stephen Ostrander at 75 Old Point Road. If you remember that application, guys, it's a brand-new house they just came in with. Here's some decent pictures of the home, it's what it looks like. This is all we've got, there's no description really of the work underneath and how it's gonna go. And frankly, it doesn't look 50% open to me, but I can't really tell because I don't have a decent description of it,
I
but
believe the description in the RDA, which is the only part, I didn't have the other paperwork, is that, it basically is gonna consist of, some type of a lattice, either 50%, I mean, it's either horizontal or vertical, I've recommended horizontal, it's easier to install. And it says it's going to be at least 50% open. So,
yeah. I'd like, you know what's gonna happen though? If I don't have a defined design here, the same thing's gonna happen that happened to the stairway and a few other things on the job. I'm gonna get called by the contractor every day, and can I do this and can I do that? So I would like to see their design and see that it's 50% open, because with that, I can tell you with that bottom board right there, that is likely not 50% open.
right, and
I know you, and I know
I
you
tried to
already.
explain the intricacies. I mean, I have not been retained by them since I did the permit for them. However, they are a client. What I would suggest is you can do a -3 with conditions, and the conditions being that the negative determination is not valid until the Conservation Office receives a more detailed plan demonstrating its 50% openness.
All right, I guess I'll go to the board and ask the board, do they have any issues with putting anything under here from the, finishing this off at all?
What's there currently?
Nothing, it's a brand new home.
So from where, there's nothing from the deck down?
There's some siding
Yeah.
down to above the flood, so the flood is, I think, AE 13.
Yes.
And so I believe what we did is we kept it open. I'm stretching my memory. It was either 2 feet above grade or it was above the flood elevation.
Whichever was greater.
Right. But not, it wasn't 2 feet above flood, but if it's AE 13, which I think it is.
It is.
We probably had them at like 13.1 with the bottom of the siding. And so.
The garage doors are already there, I believe, right?
I don't think they're installed. I don't think they're, I went down to.
I drive by.
Yeah, well, I went down to the red house there, I went
Yeah.
down to there, and I don't think they're installed yet.
This is more about just letting flood water through than moving dunes and sand.
No, actually, it's just the opposite. It's for littoral drift and moving sand. We don't care, well.
Well, no, but
Floodwater relative to what is down in the floodwater is really floodplain coordinator. And as long as he's satisfied and he's happy, it's a breakaway design.
I've never driven down this road in my life.
It's interesting, you should.
You should, I should.
Yeah.
And guess what I'm saying, is that looking at the surroundings, it looks more like marsh than dune.
I don't think there's, well, I shouldn't say this. There is very little dune activity there as far as blowing sand, growing dune. It's a back dune environment.
Just,
Right.
well,
Yeah.
on the opposite side of the road, as you get towards the basin, Hutchins, that whole area, there's actually fairly active.
But down this way, it's not.
Yeah,
You know, down this
this area is a dune that really is primarily going to be active during the storms that wipe out half the homes on Plum Island.
Right, that's what it looks like.
But it is dune,
It is in the ACEC.
Right.
That is the one place on Plum Island where the ACEC runs up that left-hand side, the west side of the road right there.
it runs
And
right
those-
up to the roadway.
Yeah, and those few homes that are in that triangle are the only homes on Plum Island that are in the ACEC.
And frankly, the reason from the permitting point of view why we didn't include lattice in the actual notice of intent is the client filed the notice of intent with a lot of lacking information and obtained a lot of attention and comments from DEP. And the cleanest way to get it through is just to not have any question marks and just go through with it completely open underneath, with the idea that we would just park that whole issue of what they do underneath until a later date.
They tried for 3 months to get it through themselves and come in here, save a little money, but they weren't, it was a little bit beyond their ability, so.
It often costs more to
Yeah.
if you go on your own and you get through, great, you save a ton of money. But if you go and you raise the attention of people when you do it, it's a lot more expensive to back
All
out.
right, I gotta get back on track.
And yeah, so
Is the board happy with conditioning the determination relative to Tom's comments?
I really sort of wish that there was, you know, here's grade, here's the base flood elevation, just so it's clear exactly what's being asked for here. you know.
All right,
I know
site
that
plan?
there's-
I'm not happy with, that there's a lack of information about what actually needs to be done, and that there doesn't seem to be a lot of attention being given by the applicant to be here and coordinate.
So one,
yeah,
Yeah.
my guess is that, and I could probably text her if I have her number, and she'd probably be here quickly because it's totally.
oh, really? How, did you just text them?
No, there they are.
That's not bad, Tom.
Come on up.
All right, here we go.
Totally
Wow.
my fault.
Here we go.
Wow.
For some reason, I was thinking this was supposed to be 8 o'clock.
Well, I was
my
gonna
fault.
say.
No one showed up
No,
tonight. We got here light
Really?
speed, yeah, it was kind of
I
funny, so.
apologize because.
That's
Again,
okay, that's okay, but you were
He's the biggest
absolutely
face of it.
timely.
So let me bring you up to date. Basically, they're looking at the lattice photos and trying to decide whether or not there's enough information there for them to be comfortable as 50% open. guys not being here, I had suggested that they could do what's called a -3 with a condition that would require that to be submitted to the satisfaction of the commission before it's actually a valid decision. But why don't you guys try to explain better what you want to put under there?
And let me tell you where the board went with that, with his comments. One of the things that we want to see is some drawing and some elevations, because if we go back with a, yeah, whatever will satisfy the commission, I know that's going to be on my shoulders, and I'm going to end up talking to the contractor about, well, what if I do this, and what if I do that? And I'd rather see a plan approved by you folks and your contractor that comes in that's 50% open, than I can say, yeah, that complies, I'm good with that. So that's where we were at when you walked in.
Okay, so we come back next time with that?
Well, if you could put something, where this siding that's on your home now, did you hold it at, is it 2 feet above grade, or is it set at flood elevation? Was it set at 13, AE 13?
Don't know that.
You don't know that.
I know it's more than 2 feet.
It's more than 2 feet?
32 inches.
Okay.
That detail is in your NOI file, and there's substantial profile detail showing where that screening is.
I understand that, but I shouldn't have to go back.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
I didn't know
no.
that the big plan needed to go in for this application.
Well, you know something, really, I don't care about the big plan, and I don't think the board does either. What the board would like to see is a sectional that is an indication of what's this gonna look like underneath? How high is it? Are you running your boards this way? The picture on here shows your boards running up and down, so you're running vertical. And then you've got a horizontal board at the bottom. That won't be 50% open. If your boards are only like 3.5 and 3.5, and then you take away 3.5 all the way along the bottom, now you're not 50%. So that design that you showed in the picture isn't compliant, or probably isn't compliant, but it's hard to tell. There's not enough detail, and that's where we were.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference of lattice versus?
As long as it's 50% open, whatever you like the looks of.
Okay. Yeah, the pictures were, that particular one was drawn.
I understand, and that's why we really, for this application, should have something that is new and that it shows really what you're gonna do.
Okay, so do we need like an architectural
No,
drawing, or do you
no,
want
no,
me
no,
to
no,
bring
no,
in like the
no.
lattice that we would like?
No, and I don't even want that. I
Okay.
would, a back of, a back of one of these pages drawing with some dimensions on it, and, if you're gonna use a particular lattice, you could take a picture of it and include it, and you could give a measurement of the opening of the lattice. You're generally, your smaller lattice, your stuff that's got the little squares, the 1.5 or 1.25 squares, that isn't compliant either. That's not 50%, so it's a pretty wide open lattice that gets you to 50.
Okay.
Do we have a list anywhere, products that are 50% compliant?
No, because, you could say lattice, but there's maybe 7 different kinds, plastic and everything,
Right.
and they're all different sizes, so some isn't, some, you
I
just have
thought
to,
it would be easy.
no, you just have,
Yeah,
no, it's not that easy, because some of them go with 3.5-inch boards and a 3.5-inch open, yeah, it's all kind of made up.
There's one house on Oak Point Road that it's got like a board and then a board set back
Mhm.
vertical that way.
That's a box. And we've allowed boxes, they're somewhat sticky in the way that boxes aren't really 100% or 50% open. This way, they're more so, this way, they're more so, this way, they aren't. We've allowed them as long as the interior dimension, let's say use a 2x4, 3.5 inches. And then you've got that same width for the board, 3.5 inches, and then the boards are not allowed to overlap.
Right.
So you know what I mean? Their edges would line up across the board, yeah. So one board could pass right through the other board on the opposite side if it had to. That's a design.
That doesn't necessarily need any framing around it, because it kind of is right down to the ground.
No, you don't want it in the ground. You still need a 3.5 by 1.5 piece at the bottom to receive all these pieces. You can't stick them in the ground. The frost would push it. It would just make an awful mess of them. And they'd rot, for a number of reasons you couldn't.
I just pulled up the NOI addendum that I found with you guys. So what we told you was it was gonna be open to a minimum of 2 feet above grade. So 2 feet above is fair game for the siding that was installed, just to clarify that. And I can, for those of you who weren't on the board, I can scroll down and show you, some of the stuff that was, this is like the design of the home that was submitted. Luckily Hopefully laptops don't flip the screen like iPhones. But, you know, so it gives you an idea of what we're looking at, and then there really is no sand movement to speak of, so 50, and frankly, I prefer a lattice that allows sand to drop outside the structure as opposed to people continually shoveling sand out and then throwing it with a dune, which, you know, seems kind of silly to me. You know,
Is the siding 2 feet off the level ground?
it looks to me when I drive by, it's a little bit more.
Yeah,
10 2 feet above?
32 inches.
So is
Yeah.
it,
I always recommend, we always say minimum 2 feet, and I always recommend people to go a little bit above that, because the last thing you wanna do is come in to Doug and then to you guys with 19 inches.
And it has happened more than once.
so if it is, say it's 30 inches,
Right.
do you subtract the 3.5 inch perimeter board from the 30?
No, well, you know,
What
that's
needs
a,
to be
well,
50%, from the bottom to the top?
yeah, from 0 to 2 feet.
That total has to be 50%.
Yes, that,
So if you
up
take
here,
3,
up here, I don't care about, so you really can't take credit for the 24 to 30 inch. The 6 inches up here, to put it down here, is not compliant.
right, but if you have 3.5 solid, do you have to make up that solid in the 50 in the middle?
Yeah, if you start out with a 3.5, then you're really stuck to running horizontal boards, because the next one has to be the 3.5 just above it.
Right.
Or you start going this way, you've lost this piece
Right.
all the way down.
And you gotta make it up,
Yes,
or you gotta do something.
yes, and you can't make it up above, because that's too hard to
Right.
make it up.
That's why I was wondering if you had, say you had 50% lattice and put it on top of the perimeter board, you wouldn't have 50% from the
No,
bottom to the
you
top.
need to, you know,
So the
if
top
they,
is 24 inches from the ground.
if they're using lattice and they put down something like, something 1.5 inches or
Mhm.
something like that as a nailer, I kind of look by that. They gotta have something down there, so
Right.
I don't think that's really a big deal. But when
Okay.
you start to get boarding down there, and especially when you get it down low and it traps the sand,
Mhm.
it's different.
Okay, so we know more and we'll come back.
Now, how do you want to continue this? Are you still of a mind to continue this? It's where you were headed before they came in? Or do you want to approve it contingent upon?
Is it contingent upon you seeing the plan?
Yes.
Does that put too much onus on you?
As long as I don't have to deal with the contractor also, no, I don't mind reviewing a plan for the parameters that we've set up. That's easy for me to do, I don't have any issue with that. Dealing with the contractor over the phone, can I do this or can I do that? No,
It's
I
too
don't
much.
like doing that.
It's
I
too
don't
much.
like to do that.
So I'm gonna offer to these guys, I'll take a first cut look at what they come up with, screen it so that you don't have to do a ton of
Fair
back and
enough.
forth.
Fair enough.
If you guys can do it as a conditional. So they can not come in at 9 o'clock at the next time. I was about to text you, I was like, I'm sure it's not intentional, I could probably text
Are you
you,
ready to move
Doug's
forward?
like,
I'm not
did you
pressuring
just
you,
text
tell me
me?
the truth, how do you honestly feel? Are you ready to move forward, or do you wanna see a drawing to approve as a board before we go forward?
I mean, it seems like we're gonna see something, we're eventually gonna have something like this that's some variation thereof that's gonna be approved. I don't know that it makes that much difference.
Okay, so you're saying to close the hearing and move
I
forward?
can tolerate that.
All right, Dan, how do you feel about that?
Overall, Dan, on that, it's kind of lovely.
Then I,
Conditional upon you're finding it satisfactory, or, meeting the 50%
meeting
standard.
the conditions,
If not, then we'll
send them back again, okay, all right. Then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion and do a conditional?
Yes.
A motion that we do a conditional.
Do a conditional number 3, and then, number 3 and number 2.
It's a -3 with conditions.
Yeah, we haven't got the rest of it.
Either that, I did it wrong for a long time.
That doesn't mean you can't change, Tom.
Do we have a
That's
second?
exactly what my
Do we
wife
what?
said.
Second, and
Do we have a, all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Keeping us on track.
Absolutely.
Exciting.
Absolutely. You ought to see it during the day.
I get the phone
This
calls.
is her cats, you know?
She's learned with me, I get the phone calls.
Our
She sends an email then, but I don't wanna get back to her in a couple of days.
Sorry to keep you asking.
You didn't, as a matter, you couldn't have come in, you know, it was like you were outside the door waiting to hear it, so.
Sure, let's go with that.
We're all set. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
All right, take
Can you
care.
do this one?
Yeah,
We-
your new neighbors, yeah, absolutely.
It was funny, we were walking here, we're like, oh, they just see what they're doing across the
So
street.
it's, design looks like that.
1 second, guys.
No, this is not the hearing, I'm just showing.
That's okay, 1 second. I'm running the hearing.
Oh,
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Tom? 1 second. We have a notice of intent for an ecological restoration project for the removal of ditch plug to increase marsh resiliency from Nancy Powell and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Parker River Wildlife Refuge. Nancy has a little bit more work to do with DEP and with Tay Evans from Division Marine Fisheries. So she has requested a continuance until the October 16th date, and that would be my recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? We have a notice of intent to demolish the existing single-family home and construct a new single-family home from Roger Chiampetti,
Yeah.
78 Old Point. Tom, you're on now, buddy.
Okay, so 78 Old Point, let me first give you kind of a perspective on where it is. 75 that we were just talking about, 73, 75, I think, is kind of down here. This is 78, it's on the corner of Divoli and Old Point. Some other photos, that's from the south, there's from the west. Again, right here, the house is kind of really run down, there's like debris piles, there's outbuildings. This side of the structure is kind of overgrown with bittersweet. There's a cinder block retaining wall along the back. Here's view from the east. And again, a view from the north. Did I do two from north? Also. No, sorry, I was giving you a view from the south earlier and I said it was the north, I think. So over here, this side of the road is ACEC. Back on the other side of this property back here is Salt Marsh. The site itself, go closer down, you can see this is the structure, it's low to the ground. It's a solid foundation. There's a entryway in. I don't know whether it's a full or a crawl space. So for the purposes of what I put on the DEP form, I assumed it's a crawl space.
With the 3 cubic yards.
3 cubic yards.
Yep.
It could turn pretty quickly into 100 cubic yards. You know, if it's an 8-foot foundation, basically what we said and what, you know, I feel that anybody rebuilding is pretty much obligated to do is the foundation hole gets backfilled with clean compatible sand and brought up to grade. So the front porch is right up in here. This part is up on some posts of some type. You can see the bittersweet growth in here. You can see kind of this little retaining wall between this property and the property up here. You can see just junk sort of all over the place.
What's the PVC pipe in the lower left?
Probably this sewer vent,
Tom,
but
they got 2 of them on that property. There's one on this side right here,
yeah.
and then there's one out and where the cement block were. See where the, well, if you go down, is it Divoli that's next to it?
Yeah.
If you go down Divoli towards the back of the house.
One here, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go down Divoli, look right there, can you see, is, right up there, see the view along Divoli? Is that, can you see it up in there?
View along the vault.
Middle picture, way up
I
high.
don't see it.
There's one up in there somewhere, because I went down there and walked it the other day.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you put it on the plan.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the neighbors. This is for the neighbors.
That's off, so, okay.
Okay,
gotcha.
yeah.
It is just off.
Yeah. But I was gonna say regardless, it will be resolved because one home is going back in and everything gets demolished and so it will be connected to one sewer connection. So you can see that if we were to try to rehab the house, we pretty quickly would exceed the building code limit for a substantial improvement to the house. And so it would have to go up on piles, brought to code, and really the only way to do it with this structure is So the basic sort of fancy version of what the house that we're proposing will look like is right here, elevated on pilings, well up above elevation 13. The average grade's about 9 on the site, like hovers between 9 and 10. And the floodplain is 13, but there'll be parking underneath the structure, which puts us really at about elevation 18 or so. The actual details for what that elevation is are shown on that cross section, which has our floodplain, proposed first floor elevation, and a 7.5 foot garage space in there. So we've actually been able to center the structure, keep it within building setbacks. It's tight, you know, it's a 10-foot setback. We're 10.4, 10.4. I think this side is 20 and we're 20.5 and we're 20.4 from Old Point. From a zoning point of view, we kind of squeezed it in to the center. From a Concom point of view, I would have much rather seen it just drop right back in the old structure location, but zoning kind of pushes us into the center if we can be. So we've had to do that. However, all these green areas that are shown that are either areas that are not vegetated because of debris or not vegetated because of building will be planted. We have clamshell driveway, parking underneath, and we've got all the numbers here, but the long and short of it is that we go from an existing area of vegetation of 2121 to a proposed vegetated area of 2700. So there's an increase of 500 plus square feet of native vegetation. We've given you, believe I gave you a planting list in there, but take a quick look.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so the planting list is one of native plants that grow on Plum Island. The default would be that it'll be dune grass 1 foot on center. However, when somebody is actually going to build here, they will at some point pay attention to what they're going to plant, and they may want to do something that I think would be smart, which would be to mix in some shrubs and, you know, have something that's a little bit more diverse. The sort of cookie cutter dune grass plantings is going to be the death of Plum Island.
We will be changing that, though, your narrative to a board decision and not an agent decision relative to planting plans.
Okay,
All right?
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, 1 or 2 bushes, they come in, but it's the same thing. They come in, they have a grand landscaping plan. Can I do this? Can I substitute?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
I'm gonna
fine.
bring them in before the board from now on.
Right.
So.
No, that's fine. I think, so the problem we face is anything I give you for a landscape plan that really shows you the landscape is fictitious because nobody can focus on the outside of the house until they get the house sort of built. I mean, these guys can attest to it. You're so focused on the layout of the thing and
I
the
get that.
cabinets and all that, you can't think outside the house. So I just prefer to give you the list, the pick list, and
Yeah, I just want you and your applicants to know that I'm gonna stop doing that.
That's
and
fine.
bring that stuff back in here.
No,
So,
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
It makes some sense, and that's something an applicant can do without the consultant. if they want.
Absolutely,
So it's,
absolutely. You know, they've got your template, so
Right.
it's not hard for them to come back in.
Yeah.
Tom, I got a few things for you.
Okay.
How are the stairs affixed to the ground when they come down? Because that's a question I get all the time too. Can I put a pad underneath it? What, should I put them on posts? What do you want me to do?
I believe the code requires some type of a pad, either gravel or otherwise. They certainly can't go right onto the ground. It's a detail I don't have. Have you been allowing concrete?
Well, most of these have been on the other side, and
Right.
so they all come down to pilings,
Right.
the bottoms of the stairs, because we don't want them washed away.
Right.
It's a little different back here, so if they wanted to suggest something different, great, but it's a detail, let's get the detail on the plan.
Right.
You know, if the platform they come down to is a step, is an 8-inch step, just like the rest of them, 10-inch step, or whatever it is, 11-inch step, and an 8 1/4 rise, or whatever they happen to have,
Yeah.
that's not a problem. I mean, they're not gonna come down to a big patio kind of thing, but,
No.
you know, again, if it's the size of a stair and it's a footing, it's what they need to put the bottom of their stairs on, they can't float them on the sand, so I
Right.
get that.
Yeah.
So
No,
depending on the conditions, either a post or a pad, something or the other.
Right. Would that be something you'd be comfortable having as a condition prior to construction to be submitted?
You could put an and on that, yeah, an and or, so it is gonna be supported by a concrete pad of such and such size.
Concrete pad
Yeah,
or
or
sonotubes?
Or sonotubes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think sonotubes probably make the most sense there for landing on, because if the area were to flood, it's not gonna be fast moving flood water, so you might get a little bit of scour.
But you
you're
don't
not
get
gonna-
much,
you're
it's
not-
better than a pad,
Right,
yeah.
right, so
So suggest that if you want.
I'm gonna suggest that we'll use sonotubes, that may possibly be substituted with a pad, of the minimal dimension that meets building code.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah, because that's a consideration, is meeting the building code also.
Right.
The elevation of the tanks and the compressor. You've got a compressor pad over here, you've got an elevated AC compressor and propane tank.
Yeah,
Number one, I don't think that's gonna comply. You can't have your source of ignition and your propane tanks on the same shelf.
I didn't
And
design.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if that's gonna be above flood, that's gonna be about 4 feet high. How's the
Yeah.
guy gonna fill it? There's no stairs up to it or anything, so I can see someone coming in and going, wait a minute, we have a pad here that doesn't comply, now what do I do with everything? It doesn't even show on there, you didn't show it on your, and I'd like to see it on here, you didn't show it on your sectional either.
Okay. Yeah,
My guess is the AC might go up here, and they may have to put the tanks somewhere else. I think they're gonna need at least 10 feet of separation between that ignition source
okay.
and the tank.
Okay, separate by code, show site plan and profile.
And you can find that in NFPA 1 if you're gonna do it. If someone else is gonna do it, you know, let them look through it.
I'm just a little.
Okay, me too. I'm just a wetland guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it sounds like, I know my client wanted to try to close tonight, we got a number. So I guess the question is, are these conditionable or,
No, you're not gonna close tonight.
okay,
Yeah, I don't think so. You haven't got a piling plan.
okay.
We need a piling plan.
Will we show pilings, right, don't we?
Nope.
Pretty darkness by right?
No, the pretty drawings wouldn't have the piling plan, but this
No, but
sometimes.
there should be pilings shown, at least as many, I mean, typically what we do is we do a grid, and, okay, so pilings.
Yeah, I'm surprised DEP, well, do we have comments from DEP?
No.
Oh, maybe, well, they'll likely comment on it anyways. so
Yeah,
That's something they
no,
always
we
pick up on.
typically,
We printed it out, I think I remember seeing comments.
Kelman,
I just
This
got,
would-
I just got the number by
in
email.
stowaway storage, no, maybe Jim, but, oh, what's this? Gadesky,
I just got the email
Not
from
yet.
Jim Freely.
I printed it.
you think you found, okay.
I have the email with the, file number if you want.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but what is the parking under the building, what's the substrate for that?
It would be the same, either clamshell or an aggregate gravel type thing. I prefer clamshell because if you have a big storm and stuff gets washed around, clamshell kind of becomes part of the background.
the environment.
And gravel still does, it's a natural thing, but it's not as common on Plum Island to have gravel. However, most people prefer gravel because clamshells are, you know, they stick in your shoes and they go in and they scrape your hardwood floors, and you shouldn't be wearing your shoes in the house at the beach, right? Sand scrapes your floors too. Anyhow, I would like to at least give you the file number. Let's see, right here. Number 50-1271. So, so I'm going to come up with, okay, support for stairs. I think your next meeting is before the zoning hearing next month,
It's
right?
the 16th.
Right. And
They
the
usually
zoning
meet the
is
Thursday after us, yeah, they're
Right,
usually
so,
2 days after.
so I
us.
think if we go to the next meeting, it'll work.
Okay.
Because they have a longer appeal period as well.
Yeah, they do, yeah,
So, okay, support for stairs, show piles.
show piles.
Okay.
You've got an on-lot, off-lot figures, and I see Driveway, it's like, this guy never parked here, did he? There's no driveway in here that I
The
could see.
off lot is here.
Is it, but then you've, oh, okay, then how come, oh, so the sand that you say is off lot is this sand?
Right.
Where's the sand that you say is on lot?
There's debris, there's right here.
That's, oh, okay, I see it now, it's just faint, all right.
Yeah.
So what are these impacts?
So when it was
Why are
surveyed,
they, okay, go ahead.
when it was surveyed, they survey existing conditions, and the field people don't always know till they get back to the office where the property boundaries are. Even if you find a pin, it's better to survey existing conditions to some distance away from where you think the property line is, because the survey field crew are going back for half a day to pick up one stupid thing that you missed.
Okay, so this has got nothing to do with thinking that he has claims to this?
No,
And
it's
this
just
shed's-
showing the detail.
And this encroachment's coming out of here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they will plant it, obviously that's conditional on the neighbor allowing to be planted. The shed will definitely come out,
But the footprint on his side,
will be planted pending their.
if he approves it?
Right,
Okay,
right.
it's a small footprint, that's not.
I doubt they'll have a problem with it, but, our intent is not to leave a scar on their property unless they want.
Oh, that was something I should have got to a little earlier.
What's that?
Mr. Simmons hasn't signed the application, so the owner hasn't signed the application yet.
I got a communication today that we have that, I asked about that, we have that.
You do?
I will get that to
All
you.
right, so we need to see that. It's a 28-foot driveway, Tom. There's no driveway on the lot right now. So really, by the bylaw, you're allowed 2 9x18s. And I think that certainly a 20x20 is gonna get you in underneath that without that 28-foot driveway.
Well, are you counting the driveway that's off property that's in the right of way? Because we have to get to the property.
We don't even, I don't even, I'm blind to those.
No, right.
Everybody goes across, I mean, I go across a
Right,
state
right.
road.
So
yeah.
my
So-
point is, to meet zoning, we have to have the structure at 20 feet or more.
I'm not talking
Right.
about this. I don't
Oh.
care how deep you are here. I'm talking about, you're 28 feet across here.
Oh, okay.
That driveway does not need to be 28 feet
Okay,
wide,
so
that's my
skinny that
point.
up, right.
Yeah, take 8 feet off that driveway. And that will get you back more in line with what our wetlands bylaw is.
Okay, what we probably will do then,
What's that?
The deck stairs coming down, do we either wanna propose that they do something here or shift that
What?
20-foot driveway width a little bit north so that it comes
However-
down to that deck?
However they want to, but this is a case where, yeah, what you and I
Yeah,
were
right,
talking about
yeah,
before
yeah,
is
right,
important.
it's what seems that
Yeah.
way. We are-
right, I think, so what we probably need, we need to spend a little more time on driveway and walkway kind of configurations. And we probably ought to show some outdoor recreation area like the clamshell patio. We've got such a balance of vegetation on the site.
This site is such a mess, you
Right.
can only make it better.
Right, so we have the 600 square foot or 500 to 600 square foot improvement vegetation even with that driveway as shown. But we can skinny that up or shape it or put in a center aisle or something to deal with that, get it to line up with whatever the garage doors are. And maybe we'll put what I think belongs there is at least sort of a 10x10 clamshell patio, because the problem is if you don't have one.
Yeah, it's either that or put the driveway right up.
Right.
Flush, shift it so it's flush.
If you don't have one, the deck there is not big enough to really have a grill on it, or, so people are gonna make a disturbance area, so we can define it.
Give them something,
Right, okay.
sure.
Okay.
There's an oil tank there, I give it a kick, it sounds empty to me, but it should be, I couldn't see
It will
in
be
the building.
properly decommissioned.
I hope so, that water tank that's laying on the ground, and
Yeah.
I couldn't see, God knows what's in the building.
Right. Right, I mean, we don't know what's in the foundation. And when we free all those people who've been locked in there for 20 years.
You should show the routing of your water and sewer somehow, someone
Okay.
should know where that is. As a matter of fact, the building should be hooked up to it, I know that there was some legal action that was taken on this property, and
Yeah,
so that it should be hooked up now, so that there should be some kind of record of where it is.
yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I get it,
Okay.
I get it.
No, but, okay.
No matter what, it'll have to be
No,
located by
so
someone
we'll
anyway.
at least show you utility trench location, and if it ends up being adjusted.
All right.
Field, and that's being adjusted. Okay?
I think that's about it, Tom.
Yeah, normally I like to have a narrow limit of work, we do show one there, but because of everything's gotta be cleaned up and planted, it's a pretty expansive one.
Oh, this, these block here, he's gonna pull them out, put some sand up against them so the neighbors, I mean, it's only 8 inches high,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get a lot of
I'll
slumping.
make sure we label that,
Yeah, get those out of there, please.
It's definitely part of the plan.
And I know we don't have FAR, but have you gone to zoning yet or applied to zoning?
The application's due Friday, I believe, to be on for that
For that
Thursday
one?
right after.
Okay, and I was just wondering what the FAR is. I saw the footprint, you know, if you double the footprint, you're a little over your FAR, I think, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think
Because I don't know what your existing is.
they ran the math. I think the FAR was like 34 something, and I think it's going to be 34 something. I think they're not increasing it. And we're definitely dropping coverage over existing.
I know you're dropping coverage, and the FAR's not ours, but I just
Right.
wonder what it was gonna be.
Right.
Because I knew you're not gonna get any more, but.
Right.
And unless I look at,
So I'll just
Yeah,
write
yeah, yeah.
confirm that we're gonna meet FAR.
yes,
which-
please.
Which I did confirm with the designer and all
With
that.
the engineer,
just,
okay.
You know,
That's about all I have for the first throw through here.
Is there any lot coverage question?
the lot coverage is definitely reduced.
There's your existing, Dan, 1353, and proposed is 1014.
Okay, and that includes all the various,
No,
Yeah.
the lot coverage only includes structures. That's what I include for lot coverage, it doesn't include the driveway or anything like that. So I think it was, what, 738 or something for the house and another 200 and
Right,
something for
For
the
the
decks.
decks, right.
something like
So,
that.
so if you don't include the decks, which, are excluded from your definition of development in the bylaw.
But not from the 20%.
Well,
They're,
so,
they're allowed in that zone,
right,
so that they're not the definition of development and redevelopment in the zone, but they always count for lot coverage.
right. So, but my point is if we exclude them, then we actually are bringing the structure that is way over 20, down below 20. Including them, I think, the number's in the narrative, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But it's like
what it was.
24, but it's a huge drop in coverage over what it was. And when you're over 20, it's within the discretion of the commission to allow it. And I think the past practice has been if you're dropping it significantly, that, you know, we did that even like on the Bizada home, we dropped the coverage, but we never got below 20.
That's true, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And that one
And-
should have been dropped below 20.
We tried.
No, it should have been dropped below 20.
Beautiful, healthy dune in front of it.
Yep, no, very good.
is this deck slash sunroom counted as coverage?
That would be FAR and coverage, right? What I would have excluded is this
This one.
and this.
Is this, I don't know, I was looking at the elevation, that's got a sunroom below and a deck above or something?
Right, so I mean, it's essentially just seasonal, yeah, it's part of the house. I mean, the zoning board is pretty specific on that gets counted as FAR, once it's got a roof and it's enclosed.
If you're not getting wet,
Yeah,
it's FAR.
so that basically makes my dining room last year means it wasn't FAR for a while.
AB.
And, you know, reading this, I just had a comment or, you know, this schedule, I mean, it makes it sound like, pitch pine on 8-foot centers is the equivalent of American beach grass on 1-foot centers or whatever.
Well, so.
You know what I'm,
Right, so if you put a pitch pine, first of all, I'd argue that a pitch pine in an 8-foot on center area, right, is probably more valuable than planting that whole area with beach grass in this location. Because the beach grass is a great plant when you want to trap moving sand. It only really grows and thrives in areas where you have sand movement and occasional burial and things like that. Whereas a pitch pine is gonna give songbird habitat, it's gonna give some different characteristics to the whole ecosystem there. And it will cover, the reason it's 8-foot on center is it'll spread out and cover that area.
My guess is that the soils there have some organics in them, there's a lot of grasses and stuff like that, and there's not a lot of beach vegetation.
Right, no, if you
Dunes.
saw, I mean, if you saw what the soil looked like when you guys started moving it around, I mean, it looked like beautiful sandy loam.
Like loam, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no sand at all.
It's growing grass under the deck already,
Yeah.
because nobody's been doing anything.
Like, that's what I was trying to get at, entire, eastern side of the island gets
Right.
overtopped and all
And you know something,
otherwise,
and unless they build the lattice out of stainless or.
it's gone, it's
Yeah.
gone, right, yeah.
So,
No,
so
I-
any sand is gonna move right through there just fine.
So I understand that it was code, we have to do it, but I guess that was my point, is that like this,
It's a,
Yeah, it
yes,
looks-
there's
it looks
different, yes,
it
there's
looks like
different
more like
levels,
marsh than sand.
different levels of
than-
activity out
Right,
there on the
yeah.
island, no doubt.
No, and it just, this looks like all these houses are built more something closer to marsh,
Right.
transitioning to marsh rather than.
The thing
That's true.
that's really helpful to getting big picture of Plum Island, the thing that to me is really helpful in figuring out how people should plan their property from an ecological point of view, is go down to the refuge, right? And look at what happens in a natural setting. Granted, it was highly altered by cattle years ago, but, what you've got is you've got a bunch of dune grass and, a few other things that are in the dunes right up by the ocean. As you go back, you get these pockets of shrubs,
Right.
pitch pine and stuff like that. Really, what we should be doing when we're planting on developing sites is trying to get the landscaping to match that kind of change. Because that's kind of what it should be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we got into this cookie cutter mold back in the 90s that we're still trying to get out of, which is beach grass 1 foot on center, or beach grass 2 feet on center, depending on which consultant you are. Beach grass with fertilizer, beach grass without fertilizer.
2 cones, 3 cones.
Right. But that's about it.
I think my point really was, if you say, well, we're gonna do 8-foot center of pitch pine, and how many years is it gonna take to really,
Well,
you come in to get compliance and.
And that's a good comment, Dan. Maybe you should work with your applicant a little bit, because the applicant's gonna come in afterwards, and their idea of planting their property is going to be container gardening or something raised over here with bark mulch on it and fancy flowers. It's definitely not gonna be this back dune picture, this natural back dune picture. And there's no way they're gonna accomplish something like that without your help.
oh yeah, well, my hope is that I'm always engaged later to assist them in that.
Yeah.
But I think that what ends up happening is a compromise between that. They're not gonna have total natural
Right,
thing.
but we could have something in that, either the list could be modified, or there could end up being some conditioning the same. We like the idea of pitch pines, but there needs to be, if you wanna go that route, there needs to be planting that's when thinking temporally, is
Right.
gonna carry you over to when that pitch pine is appropriately
Right,
spaced.
I mean, I think a standard
Yeah.
condition,
Yeah.
I believe Newburyport has a standard condition along these lines, and you guys may have one, but you may just want to have a standard condition that says it should be no loam, mulch, whatever used, as part of any landscape.
We try and keep the organics out of it as much as we can. People throw bark mulch on it anyway, and
I mean, my favorite site visit ever was Fordham Way when we were
Wasn't
sitting
that-
there, and,
Green log gateway or something.
we're waiting for DEP to arrive.
Yep.
And a station wagon with about 12 people in it, loaded with rakes and shovels and whatever, pulls up right in front of us. And 12 people jump out of it, it's like a clown car, and they all grab rakes and stuff, and they run down 2 houses. And then a dump truck comes in, dumps a bunch of loam, and then starts to drive off, and Doug just looks at us all and says, I think I better go out and talk.
I'll be back in a minute.
Man.
So, anyway, Tom, you got
So
enough
I've got
of
some
the list
homework,
to,
yeah, if there's
Okay.
anything else,
the board can get it to me, I
Right.
can email it to you, or you can give me a
Yeah.
shout and ask me if there's anything else.
yeah, no, I think we can turn this around pretty quick,
Okay.
and, I'll send it to you all in a PDF so you can maybe circulate it, and then if anybody can funnel comments back through the, conservation agent, then,
Jen has a way to put it online now so that they can view it without coming in, so
great,
they can see the stuff.
okay.
And actually, Tom, you can start using it to apply too.
Yeah, please do. We
Send
are,
me the info.
we are open portal now for, online application, just like the building
So I
department.
don't have to drop off the paper anymore?
You can actually upload everything straight to it.
I could do it on the weekend.
Yes,
Assuming Monday morning, you know.
yes.
You can pay for it online too.
That means I have to get my client to give me the payment information. Give me your Amex number. So I will ask to continue this to the next regularly scheduled meetings. Oh, I guess you need to ask whether or not any butters comments.
Would anyone, are there any butters here? Would anyone like to speak on this project?
It's a lot less stressful being a After being here so many times on the other side.
And with the permission of the applicant, it's my recommendation that we grant a continuance to the October 16th date.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
No, we moved it, sorry. Were you making the move?
No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll see you on October 16th.
So many new faces.
We've got one more, new one that will be in next month, so we'll see him next
Two more,
month.
he hasn't got mine yet.
Isn't it, Brian?
Oh, that's right, you haven't met Brian. Oh, so two more, two different faces.
Same people for so long.
Well, you know, Les Jones, Les Jones, 35 years.
There you go, shameless market.
I'll have my own pen and sign it.
Shameless marketing.
Thank you, guys.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Take care.
Take care.
All right.
Going right black, that's my only.
That goes in the RDA.
Yeah, no problem.
So these new owners, they, the house sold and these are new people?
Yeah, it's, I mean, I think that these guys are.
We have a request for a certificate of compliance from Jürgen Podesti at 77 Riverfront East. It is 50-581. It was for a garage that they rebuilt. The garage was existing. I went down there and walked around it. We have no file. But the garage is the garage that was there, and they put it on, I don't think they drove pilings, but they've got it on telephone pole type pilings, so it's lifted up off the ground, the tide comes in and out, and there's grass around it, and you know, it's what you'd expect it to look like. So it is my recommendation that we grant a certificate of compliance for 50-581.
So move.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Right, it's purple, what's the matter?
That's why he's getting the roll.
Great, thank you.
We have a request for a certificate of compliance from Catherine Caden at 8 Coleman Road, 50-420. Same thing, our files are gone on that. There was a subdivision down there on Coleman Road. This is just as you pass Triton and you take the left onto Coleman Road, there was a small subdivision put in that little V in there, maybe 4 or 5 homes some years ago. I remember just getting on the board, it was one of the first ones we did, so. They stayed out of the wetland. It is a very steep front yard that transitions right down close to the edge of the wetland. Looks like it's been there forever. There's no siltation into the wetland. There was no filling of the wetland. It would be my recommendation that we find this compliant with its order of conditions and grant a certificate of compliance.
So,
All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, Vasquez the next one. This is the one we're doing right now. Those
Oh, it was all put together.
they're just clipped together, yeah.
They got it.
And we have a request for a, oops, sorry. And we had a request for a certificate of compliance from Paul Avasker at 49 Fordham Way, 50-1210. And this one, we did have a plan, and this was done in compliance. He put a little, there it is right there, a little stairway off the front of his house, and when he opened this door, he had to back down the stairway. So what he did is he came out with a little entryway that comes out to about here, comes across here. There's a little pergola up here, and his stairway comes down out here. So they did a small addition. I know there's a plan of it in here somewhere.
Very nice plan.
Oops, there it is. So this is what he did right here. He took this and the stairway out, and he put this little deck addition in here and moved the stairway out here. So that replaces this little thing here. It sticks out right about here. So I went down there on the 17th, and I found it in substantial compliance, and it would be my recommendation to the board that we grant a certificate of compliance.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I picked this up and made a mess of it, Jen. Was there a...
Yeah, it was in there. Bottom page, there, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And seeing no other business, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearings.
So moved. Second?
All those in favor?